Hello, Colts Nation. What's up, No Horsing family? Welcome back to another episode of the No Horsing Around podcast. As always, I am one of two dudes talking Colts. I'm one of your hosts, Stephen Burton. And on today's episode, we're going to kind of continue the trend, which is weapons, 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 right? Because the Colts are in desperate need of more weapons. And there's a big thing that people have been talking about a lot. Everyone from Stampede Blue to Bring the Juice to the Indy Star. Whoever it is has brought this name up. But before we get to that, you guys, please like, share, subscribe, comment. Comment. Let me hear what you guys have to say. Let me hear if you guys agree or disagree. Like me and Zach have always said, I'd prefer us talk with you than talk at you, or a kind of a show for the people for Colts Nations for you to share your voice, as Zach always says. So make sure that you're subscribed and you're dinging the bells. The off-season stuff's crazy. You never know when stuff is going to come. So without kind of further, this is not going to be a long, drawn out one. I want to hear what you guys have to say. Matt Ryan, Julio Jones 2.0. The big thing that everyone keeps talking about right now is, should the Colts bring in Julio Jones on a small, incentive-laden deal, meaning yards, touchdowns, and playing in games, because he's been very hurt lately. I don't know where I sit with it. I have kind of set on the side of I don't love it, but you guys know I live in Tennessee. I got to see Julio firsthand last year as a Titan, and it wasn't great. It wasn't great. But that being said, last year when we brought in Carson, a lot of people felt we should have brought in some sort of security blanket for him. Maybe bringing in a Zach Ertz, something that he was familiar with to help him kind of get used to the flow of the offense. And who better to bring in for Matt Ryan than possibly Julio Jones, one of the best wide receivers probably in the history of the game, one of the most prolific duos in the history of the game, Matt Ryan and Julio Jones in Atlanta. Now, you may ask yourself, Steven, what does that look like? It's hard for me to remember. What does that look like? Well, Julio Jones and Matt Ryan, they played 200. Wait, no, let's see. They played 134 games together, produced 242 touchdowns. I mean, it's insane when you look through the numbers. Matt Ryan went throwing to Julio. Okay, that's it's 39,204 yards, 242 touchdowns, and 99 interceptions, and 134 career games together. So he definitely has a rapport. He really does. And when you look at what Julio did last year with the Titans, 586 yards. That's kind of it, you guys. He was hurt a lot, didn't play in a lot of games, didn't look great without Matt Ryan. Now, is that Matt Ryan? Is that age? Is that injury? I don't know. But I could see this seems like a Ballard kind of move potentially. On the same token, there seems to be a lot of interest in Julio this offseason. And as we know, Ballard's not going to bid against himself. He's not going to get into a bidding war. So it's going to have to be at the right number. Do I think he's possibly interested in Julio? Probably. He probably is somewhat interested in maybe bringing in something like that. Who in his prime, I think the greatest thing I've ever heard was a DB said it's not even fair because in Julio's prime, it was like covering an avatar one-on-one, which is insane to think about anyway. So I want to hear what you guys have to say. This is a big thing going around Colts Nation, No Horse and Family, Colts Twitterverse, Colts Facebook. Is immediately when we signed Matt Ryan, when we traded for him, it was bringing Julio Jones. I'm hesitant unless the deal is right, only because I've seen him kind of have this steadier decline. And also, let's not forget he wanted out of Atlanta before Matt Ryan left because he didn't. The rumor was he didn't feel Matt could push the ball down the field to him. Now, does the season away and not having a good season, does that change his mind? And coming to a team that is potentially, a couple of pieces away, or a lot of people are saying already competing for the AFC South, potentially with the Matt Ryan and the Yannick Ngakoue trade being higher up in the AFC than what we were last year. Does that sway him? Does that change his mind? I don't know. Um, if he wants more money, he's probably going to go somewhere else. If he wants to play with familiarity and have a decent role, he might come to the Colts. My gut says that they're in on him right now. I think that they are potentially looking at him. That's why there's this lull. Let's not forget Matt also redid his contract, opened up space. You don't open up space to not use that space. I know Ballard is picky, but he's looking for pieces still. And you do have people, like my boy Rashad over at the Blue Stable, who has mentioned the Colts are talking to people. It's very fluid right now. So he's probably one of those. I'm sooner to probably take a flyer on him than TY. So let's give him a really incentive laden contract that is directly linked to yards, production, and availability. Like I said, I want to hear what you guys have to say. Drop the stuff in the comments. Let me know what you think. Should we and Colts and Colt Nation, should we support the idea of potentially reuniting Matt Ryan and Julio Jones in Indy for one last run? I want to hear from you guys, okay? So I end these things the same way I always do. I love you. Zach's still on vacation, but I know he loves you. We're out.